Welcome to ShapeLanguage. This week's guest is an environment artist at Respawn Entertainment. 1 year ago, he made the leap from being a student to a professional, jumped straight into the final year of working on Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. If you've played any part of the game, then you've played his part. Him and one other environment artist were tasked with Braca, which is that giant starship graveyard at the very beginning of the game. It's got some spectacular vistas. If you haven't played it or seen these, we will include a couple in the show notes so you can check them out right now. Also covered this week, machine learning, how you can spend your Christmas break, and of course, the Tesla Cybertruck. We had a blast recording this episode, and I picked up some great tips along the way, so I hope you get a couple as well. Please enjoy this conversation with a deep thinker and a very kind soul. Welcome, Evan Cwiertny. How long have you guys known each other? So you grew up across the street?
No, my freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
So that's 4 years in high school, and then we've been out since 14, so 9 years.
I had no idea you went back that far.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's the one who got me into knowing pretty much. Like,
shit.
Yeah. I wasn't sure where I wanted to go, and you found it and went. Or you took one of the online classes, and I came over to your house and just like eavesdropped on one of those online classes.
That's true. That's right. That was pretty before I even moved up here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then he made the leap, and then 3 terms later, I was like, that sounds like a great idea, so I did it too.
And look at you now.
Yeah.
Well, let's kick things off. The question we usually start with is, what game first inspired you to get involved with this? Was there like a moment where you realized, like, I want to create worlds?
Actually, yeah. But I actually reviewed this story with someone recently, and I realized how lackluster it sounds. I was at lunch with a bunch of people, and like, yeah, I got inspired by The Lion King. I got inspired by, like, I went to an animation tour, I saw someone drawing The Lion King for the first time. I was like, I want to go into entertainment. And then it got to my turn, and I was like, yeah, I was playing Destiny, and I just like the guns. And I was like, I want to build a gun that someone really likes. And then like everyone's like, Destiny's like 5 years ago. Like, you
Yeah.
Really? Like, that's your story? I'm like, I guess.
Yeah.
But then upon further review, I guess like it goes back into the Halo days. Like,
Same.
Yeah, like getting an Xbox 360 for the first time, playing Halo 3 and seeing like just the scale of the worlds and stuff, that kind of just subconsciously hit me in the right spot. That kind of propelled me down this direction. And then I guess I got Bungie to thank for most of the stuff that I've chosen in my career to get where I'm at. But Destiny was kind of the first time where I was like, it was at a pivotal point. Kind of graduated like high school for the first time. What I'm talking about.
Evan is 43 in high school.
I really like high school. I took it like 3 times. And then I guess it was just like I was in this part after high school where I was kind of just like in a job that I didn't want to be in. And then I was going to community college.
Was that Cheesecake Factory?
It was the Cheesecake Factory.
I did take a quick peek at your LinkedIn. I was like, that's got to come up.
It was the Cheesecake Factory. And it was
a good life experience.
It was a great, I was at Newport Beach, so I was just like, there's this getting yelled at by old, like, rich people was not the thing for me. And I was just like, okay, well, I'm doing this. At least I'm making money. But then I was just like, I was going to community college, and I was like taking math and English. And I was like, this is not interesting at all. And then Destiny dropped, and I was like, oh, like video games. And I was just like, that sounds pretty fucking, like, that could be a career. And then, did some research, found Gnomon, and then kind of propelled me to where I'm at now.
Well, so when I think back on it, I remember around like mid-senior year or something like that in high school, you just started drawing a ton.
That is true.
You just like all of a sudden you were like, I'm drawing like every day. Was that around the time that Destiny kind of came in and had took its influence on you?
This is actually before. I think that's that was like my junior and senior year of high school. I was like, I did like performance arts for a long time. I did like a lot of music and stuff, and that's basically why I went to school. Hold on, gotta move the cat. I went to Huntington Beach High School, which is where I met Damon, and I went to that school specifically because they had a like contemporary like music program, and so they would play like popular like pop songs, and like we did Beatles shows, like contemporary shows, like and then we'd have like a third show where it would just be a random theme. So it's like Woodstock essentially, or something like that, and we play songs from Woodstock.
Everyone just gets fucked up.
Some people did.
Yeah.
May not have been, necessarily legal or not, but it is what it is. But I took an art class because I just needed a credit, and there's a teacher at Huntington Beach named Matthew Harward, and he was literally probably the best person that I could have at that moment, where it kind of just like, I sucked. I never really, like, I drew, like as a kid, or just like crayon against paper and whatnot. I started drawing, and he would be the kind of guy that would always come around and just kind of keep you, he'll push you. Just like, that's great. How about this? Try this. Like, what if you just curved it this way? Like little tiny subtle pushes that kind of just drove you into a certain like a path, like getting really interested and really invested in art. And so I was like, oh crap! At the end of the first year of that art class, I was like, I'm gonna take a second one. I'll take the second one next year. And then that's where Damon was mentioning, where it's like my last year of high school, I was just constantly drawing because this guy was just like, he was super happy and super invested in the fact that I was invested in the medium, and he would just constantly just keep pushing me. And it was like the final art project as well. That was kind of like, it was a painting, and I did like a painting of like of a Big Daddy and something, and he looked at it and he was like, you should be a concept artist. And I kind of like, again, tickled a little fancy in my brain. Yeah, and it's like, it's just all this little, culmination of things just kind of piling on top of each other before you make that big leap to go actually into the industry.
Right. So that got the ball rolling, and then the whole 3D aspect of it didn't come in until like a year or so after, right? Like when you first found that Nomen class.
Yeah.
Did you have any like preconceived notions about 3D at all, or you were just like, I had no idea this existed?
Nothing. Yeah, I did not know. I was super ignorant to how graphics and 3D work, like completely. And then I took an intro to Maya class online, and that was like my first time like using 3D. It was 10 weeks. Even at the end of the 10 weeks, I was still super ignorant to the idea of what Maya was.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I actually got into Nomen where they really hammered the point. Like, this is what this is. This is how you use it efficiently. This is how you can get looks and stuff. And like, at the time, even just like, there was points at Nomen where I was just like, I feel like kind of a lot of people go through this little existential crisis at Nomen where it's like they go in knowing 2D and they're like, oh, I want to be a concept artist. And they get to the 3D section and they're like, I don't want to do 3D. I just want to do 2D. And then, but then you see the power of 3D and you're like, oh shit, this could be used, for everything.
Yeah. It's like it unlocks everything, honestly. Like once you know that and 2D, there's like nothing's off the table at that point.
Right.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, both Damon and I have talked about how we started with concept art, and I'm not sure if that's because, like, as a kid, you're not introduced to 3D at all,
right.
Or
if
it's because that is like the path that just draws so many of us to this, and like if that's still, because sometimes I think like, well, did I just not choose that because it was harder than what I do now? Like that's something that sometimes crosses my mind, but then I also think, okay, but becoming a character artist is pretty hard as well.
Right.
Same with becoming an environment artist.
I think that the concept art path is presented to everybody who is interested in this thing at some point, because like drawing and painting is so accessible to literally everyone.
Right.
That it seems like the best in when you're at that certain point in your path, right?
Right.
But I'm always curious with how few people actually continue down that road.
Right.
And I wonder if it's just because there are so few positions or if there's something else to that.
That's
but 3D also
good
plays a
question.
huge role in concept art now.
Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah, now they're kind of bleeding together a lot.
There are people at my work that do 3D and concept, or they're strictly concept artists, but they do 3D and they're doing the texturing. They're doing like all the steps.
They're coming for our jobs.
They're coming for our jobs, and it's scary because you go through their files and you're like, dude, he's like one step away from replacing me. Yeah. I'm just like, there was one point, and there was one point that was super reassuring, and it was the fact that one of the concept artists at our work, he came up to one of my coworkers, and he was freaking out because Maya crashed. and he couldn't figure out where it stores the crash file. I was like, there it is. That's my in. I just know the file path to where the crash is.
That's your job security.
That's my job security.
So wait, something you just said made me think that you were saying like coming for my job, like what can he do? And we had a conversation with one of our last guests on this is actually the podcast that was lost to the void. We were talking about AI, and I was really curious about how that would be impacting environment artist jobs, because it seems like there are more applications for it there. And I'm wondering if there are things that seem really exciting to you of where AI and machine learning is going to make certain very repetitive parts of your job much easier so that you can focus on things like color and composition and storytelling.
Right.
What do you think about that?
That's a great question. I think that mostly it's going to be this weird fusion of like this is probably me talking out my ass as well, but like it could also like combine, like our roles might start being combined where it's like level design and environment art become the same thing. Where it's like you have these machine learning, you have the photo scans, you have like all these like procedural elements that are making like, you know, life a lot easier, but it is taking steps out that like, you know, help me at least like, you know, keep my job essentially. It's the steps that I know that like, oh, I know how to do this, so this is why they hire me. So it's like I think like the level design process and the artist process will eventually become one thing where it's like we're gonna have to be like environment arts. We're gonna have to kind of step it up a little bit more, where we're gonna have to actually learn programming, like hardcore programming, and learning a bit more math and stuff, and like applying more scripts and stuff to our workflow and whatnot. I think that kind of like it sort of answers the question.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what we ended up at with characters as well. It's like we feel like maybe in the future we'll like character artists or artists in general will have to know enough about the AI systems and how to control them with things like programming and, you know, coding and all that stuff to get the results that we want. So there's gonna be more of a technical aspect to it, but in the end that becomes a more artistic aspect because it's giving you results. I don't know. It's gonna be a weird hybrid. Yeah, but it's exciting to see where that goes.
It's just how much technology comes out and how fast it's coming out. I just like, for me, I can't really predict what's going to happen in the future.
Right.
And that scares me, honestly, because like it's one of those things where like even now, like if I don't touch Substance Designer for like 3 months, it's out of my brain.
You're out of date.
Yeah, I'm like, it's gone. Like, it's gone. Like, I open up the program and I'm like, where are all these nodes? Like, there's like 3 different blurs. Like, you know, like it's just like, I was like, obviously I know the difference between them, but it's just like, it's that kind of intimidation where it's just like, there's so much to it.
Yeah.
It's just like, it scares me because it's just like, especially only being, you know, into the industry for a year, just like how fast technology is going. It's like, what's going to happen in like 10 years when I'm in this industry? And like, what kind of tech is going to be out there, and how am I going to learn it if I can't even get the time to learn Substance Designer right now?
Yeah,
just like,
we got to just keep running the treadmill of staying on top of things. But it's
so exciting to think where it's going.
Totally.
And when I think of, especially with environment art, I think of VR and where that's going to take it. Because so when I did take my one environment art class that I did drop out of back in Montreal, 6 weeks in, first project, and apparently I said I fucking hate environment art in my presentation, and the teacher said get out of my class. So I was done with that. But I did, for a project after that, we were making this like little VR game, and basically I made like a cave, like that was it. But experiencing it in VR was, I was like, oh, now I see why I could love environment art.
Game changer.
That's unreal, man.
Right.
Yeah, it's really cool to nice. It's really cool.
Unreal sponsor.
Well, we had our Nomen gallery. What was that,
like a year ago?
A year ago, maybe. Yeah. And one of the teachers at Nomen asked a few people, myself and Evan included, to give him their projects, their Unreal projects, and he set it all up for VR. So that when we went to the gallery, we were able to put a headset on and walk through our own pieces in VR, and it was a fucking game. Like, it was insane.
So cool.
It was insane. Yeah, because like I was looking at my project for like 3 months, and then an additional 10 weeks on and off And so like I felt like I knew this thing pretty intimately.
Yeah.
And then he took the time to put it into VR, and I put the goggles on for the first time, and I was like, the scale is insane.
Yeah.
Like it's just like I want to do every project from here on out. I do want to put in VR if I ever finish a project.
Right.
The eternal question of pros with side projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start a whole bunch of them.
Well, it's every day. Well, not every day, but like every week I come up to him with a new idea. Like, what do you think of this? And then I'll start sketching it, and then he'll look at it. He's like, this looks pretty cool. Like, keep going. And then I'm just like, I'm on to the next one.
Yeah.
Next week, and it's like it never leaves the gray block out.
Just
pretty much.
constantly like in that sketching stage. But that's the fun stage, and if that's where you want to live, that's a good place to do so.
Right.
And then when there comes a time where you have to finish something, you can finish something.
Well, and that's like at work for all of us. I think it's just a lot of like polished stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like finishing other people's things and collaborating and stuff. So oftentimes, I mean, I find that like the sketching or the block out phase, that is where we can still learn the most, and it's the part of the process that as artists we don't get to do as much in our jobs, and it's really fun and inspiring to do.
Right.
It's the best part.
Yeah.
Definitely. So let's jump back to you're at Noman, and I remember you were doing. I mean, at Noman, you do a little bit of everything, right?
Right.
You were doing character work, which was really good. You were doing vehicle work, which was really good. You were doing props, all that stuff, environments, of course. At what point did you say, like, I want to do environments and I'm committing to this? And what was that choice like for you?
I might actually have the opposite story of Colton, where it's 6 weeks into character class and it's Reed apologizing, and I'm like, fuck that. And I just dropped it.
Yeah.
But it was like, I think it was one of those things where it's like no one dogpiles so many classes on you that you do kind of have to pick and choose. And like sure, you can get C's in all the classes, or you can get A's in a select few that you're super interested in. And the other classes may pass or not, and it's like you're still getting information out of them, but you're not necessarily like, I can't do the work because I just like, I'm taxed for time and I don't have a life. So it's just like, it's not like I'm doing fun stuff on the side. It's basically, I'm just constantly just like working.
Yeah.
Just this chair has seen so much wear, But it was one of those things where honestly it's like I do love characters. I like seeing the art station posts. I love the props, obviously. That's good like the whole Destiny thing where it's like a hero prop to me is really fucking cool, like making a gun, making a robot, making a character, etc., helmet, whatever. But it was just at the time it was one of those things where it was like I was working on that character, but I was also working on this map painting of a giant spaceship and whatnot, and I was working on like I don't know, there's other just environment stuff that was just grasping my attention, where it's like, this is what I want to tell. Like I feel like I can tell better stories with environment art than I could with characters.
Right.
Me personally, I feel like when I'm having a dream, it's usually an environment and rather than like how a character looks,
Right.
And so like I can take those dream ideas, or shower thoughts, and put that into an environment better than I could for a character.
Right.
And so that's why I kind of gravitate towards environment art, and going back to like my childhood, like grew up on Star Wars, grew up on massive sci-fi properties and stuff. So it's like it kind of turned into this thing where I was like, what path is going to lead me down to making a giant spaceship? And environment art was the kind of path that I could take to lead down to making a giant spaceship.
Yeah.
Little did I know the first job I was going to get was going to allow me to make a giant spaceship.
Exactly.
So that was pretty cool. But yeah. I think it just comes down to storytelling, honestly. Just like environment art, going back to like how like the unfinished projects. I feel like they take a bit longer, but like I feel like for me the payoff of the environment is just like with the lighting and the effects and like the composition, that alone just kind of keeps me going. Just like that. That's my thing.
Yeah, and I can say that with every little side project that I've seen you start, it's like you always get it to a point where it's selling the story just in that early stage, and I can see exactly what you mean by like that's how you tell your stories the most efficiently. Whereas if you were just limited to a character, you wouldn't get that big sense of epicness or those things that you're so driven towards.
Right.
That was really close.
We're watching the cat here jump around. So quite an acrobat.
Okay, I also want to now derail to a year ago. You find out that you're getting your first job in the industry, working on what a lot would consider a dream project in Jedi Fallen Order, and you jump into a studio that's in full swing production a year till launch. What was that like?
First, you shit your pants.
Yeah.
And then secondly, it's crazy. It's it's one of those things where it's so intimidating getting that. Because when I got my offer, or not my offer, but the letter from Respawn, I was like, did I sign up for a Titanfall 2 newsletter or something like that? It said greetings from Respawn. And I was like, why did I get this in my art email? Yeah. It was like, did I accidentally sign up for something when I was playing Titanfall? And then I clicked on it and you read it and you're like, oh shit. And at the moment was no one was in the apartment. I was the only one here. It was just me and the cat. Damon was back home visiting family. The old roommate was back probably visiting family too.
Yeah.
And I'm pacing back and forth in the apartment. I'm like, who do I call? Who do I call? My girlfriend literally just left the apartment too, so she's driving home, and I'm calling her. It's barely putting words together and whatnot.
Lost for words.
But yeah, having your first interview is fucking crazy. Having your first day is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But what's so cool is that obviously if you were raised on Star Wars, you walk around the office and you see what people are working on, and you're like, shit, this is insane. And that alone kind of gets you so excited to keep going. That's what gets you up in the morning. Obviously, is just seeing what you get to work on and seeing what other people are working on, and just constantly checking up on people. You're like, oh shit, that's really cool. And you can see the end product already. You're just like, oh, I know what that's gonna look like. That's gonna look fucking sick. People are gonna walk into this room and they're like, oh my god.
That's so that kind of got you through that whole process in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, you're radiating excitement now, but I'm wondering, were there times when you were just sitting there stressed out of your mind, sweat dripping down your back?
I would say the first month, maybe, my first 2 months there, I would stress so much that I would come home and immediately sit on the couch and fall asleep. Mm-hmm. I would be getting home at 8 o'clock and I would be passed out until fucking 8:30 the next morning. Mm-hmm. I was just constantly just stressing about what what am I gonna fuck up tomorrow? What's gonna be the next thing that's gonna get people mad? What am I gonna do that's gonna make people hate me? Just being a junior and whatnot. And so there were days where you would do something, and I jumped in at a pretty big milestone as well. So they threw me into the fire pretty fast. And so people were pretty high stress already. We had a deadline 2 months from when I joined. And so they're it was one of those things where, there would be days where you get your art director would come up and you give you a pat on the back. There'd be other days where someone would come over and get really mad at you for, a prop that you made or something a choice that you made, and not really mad. But it's just, it's a stress kind of thing, People are just a little frustrated. They're kind of on the edge. And so, I didn't really get over that until I started meeting people there, actually becoming friends with them, and them telling me bro, it's okay, you get to chill a little bit, and it's gonna be okay. People are allowed to fuck up in the industry. Mm-hmm. You're allowed to make mistakes, because mistakes can be reverted thanks to your versioning systems and whatnot, and Perforce or whatever, and so if you break the game, you could revert it, Not that I was ever going to break the game, but it always felt like every small check-in, I got the first time I had to actually check out the level and start placing simple decals. I was like, oh god, I'm going to break something. I'm going to move something, and then it's going to, the QA is going to come back at me and be like, oh, you've left a hole in the middle of the floor, which did happen later in the development. But it was later in the development where I was it was okay. I felt I was okay with it because my buddies caught it over the weekend. Yeah. He sent me a picture and he was just like, Evan, what is this? It's just it's in the first level, and it's we had this modular system just placing this scaffolding along the path, and I just wanted to kind of like switch it around to add more variance of colors, and I ended up missing one right in the fucking middle.
Oh no!
Just like if the player walks straight, you would just go whoop right through the hole.
Fall through.
He's a Jedi. He can find his way around.
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah,
he can fly, right?
Yeah. But yeah, it's stressful. But then, like, I think the biggest piece of advice that I never received myself, but my buddy did, and we were shipping the game, and my art director told my buddy, who happened to leave a floating piece of geometry somewhere. I'm not gonna say anything, but like, he basically went to his art director and asked, like, hey, or our art director, and it's like, hey, is there any way we can get this patched or fixed? And the art director looked at him and was like, there's gonna be bigger mistakes in your life, or bigger mistakes in your career. Yeah. So don't sweat this one. And I'm like, oh, that's a good point. It's like really little tiny things are like that you fuck up as a junior. It's like, it's as long as you're not breaking the build, you know, like I said, but you can also revert. But like, it's just like, it's all part of the experience, you know. You're just gonna grow.
Yeah.
You're gonna grow, and then you learn. It's not like you're incapable of learning. Yeah. It's just like it's just all stuff that you'll add to your backpack that you'll carry with you, and you'll just use that to apply to, you know, future projects.
Make it sound like literal baggage. Just put it on my back.
I mean, it keeps you up at night.
Yeah. Do you have any other tips for, like, if you could talk to yourself a year ago when you were just passing out on the couch, with either ways to deal with the stress or like lifestyle changes, or is that just like an inevitable thing that you have to sort of get through?
I think there's an inevitable actual tiredness that I had to get over, like work stamina or whatever, because I was so used to basically working off one meal a day, working for like 12 hours, 14 hours like every day, going to bed for 6 hours, like waking up. I don't think the math adds up, but you know what I mean.
We all live that life.
Yeah. And so like then you go to work, and then like you're like, oh shit, people rely on me, and so like that, like, and you have to make sure those 8 hours are pretty solid. You're actually making progress.
Right.
So it's like there's a stamina you got to build to make sure you get into like, you know, a healthy balance. I think the one thing I would tell myself is like play more games. You know, I recently started playing games when I was during the latter half of the project, and that alone would just add more inspiration into your diet, your brain diet, and it would also just be a stress relief and like just something that's not necessarily art. I mean, like, that's probably not the greatest advice to give on an art podcast, but I think the inspiration is like the biggest takeaway of it. It was just like play games, like try to play a lot of games. And I didn't start doing that until like April or like May of this year. And I got like the Xbox Game Pass, and I started churning through games, and I was like, this is really helping me on my outlook on how to actually take my art to a further level, but without actually sitting at my desk and like banging my head against, you know, technical information or whatnot. Yeah. And like that, I think that alone helps so much.
Yeah. And that's exactly what we have talked about, you know, many times, is like art is 100% our career, our passion, our everything, right? Mm-hmm. But it's the things that we do that aren't art that continue to push our art forward, you know?
Right.
Like, that's why people go travel, that's why people, you know, work out, that's why people do everything else while they're in this career, is because it all helps to reinforce the art in the end, even if you think it's completely unrelated. Right. Which is such a cool thing about art, is that it's such a personal endeavor, that anything you put into your personal self is gonna reflect in what you're making. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I also urge everybody to play more video games.
Did you mentioned dreams earlier on? Do you actually get a lot of your ideas from literal dreams, or is it stuff like shower thoughts, or just like walking around in the world? There's things that inspire you.
A lot more shower thoughts than dreams. I had one recently where I did a project based off something that was kind of like a weird nightmare that I had. And I was like, I want to see if I could pull this off. Didn't really pull it off. I didn't finish it, but like it was one of those things where I was like, oh, I'll just start taking that. But it's mostly shower thoughts, where I'll be sitting there and like I've been thinking about like a pop culture thing, and then I'm like, oh, that's cool. What if I put this twist on it? I'm like, oh shit, and then I can see it in my head. I'm like, okay, time to go to the computer or go to the iPad and start sketching it up really quick. Yeah. And like I have like on my iPad, I have like the world's shittiest drawings, but I can read them, and that's all that matters. And it's just from like, you know, like from just like little shower thoughts or like, you know, bathroom thoughts that I have.
Right. I wonder if I could still find it, but I remember back before you did your Jotunheim piece, which is, for those who don't know, is like this crazy Viking throne room thing. It's all snow and stuff. It's on its ArtStation if you want to check it out. But I remember when you were starting that project, your computer was busy rendering for another class or something, so you used mine while I was in class. And I remember you did an initial sketch of it, and it's it's like the most loose, like, it looks like I'm not trying to be mean, it looks like a 10-year-old just like took pen to paper and made something, and I was like, I see what's there, but it's like, whoa, what's going on, right? Mm-hmm. And then cut to, months later when you have this finished thing that in the end, if you put the two side by side, you're like, holy shit, it's there, like in that initial sketch in some form, and you just took it to that beautiful, like, polished final piece that inevitably got you a job. Like, it's so cool that you have that full process from like sketch to final piece. Like, a lot of people, I think, nowadays just start sculpting or start modeling without doing that.
Right.
So I wonder if I can find that and we can maybe put that up. That'd be cool. That'd be really cool to see. If
I might still have it, yeah.
That'll be like your podcast image. Like I usually put some pro.
That's fine.
Yeah. We had a 10-year-old on this week.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's more than even like calling it a sketch is even maybe the wrong term. It's almost like just notes to yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's like if you wrote down the words and like, we just have bad handwriting or something, you just see scribbles on the paper, but that's actually poetry, and like I can read it and I still understand what's in there. That's what it was to you, like you could still see what it was going to be.
Totally. Yeah. It's like it's funny because we took Damon and I took like 2D classes for our first year at Noman, and I was like, I feel like I got a pretty decent grasp on how to paint. And then as I started learning more 3D, like those just elements just completely disappeared.
Yeah.
But like, it's funny because like getting what those classes taught me is that you can see the final product in your initial SketchUp, and that's the information that I've only taken. It's like basically everything else has disappeared except for that little aspect where I can just get an initial sketch and I can immediately see what the final result looks like.
Right.
It's like, and then obviously you can go in and you can put like really shitty textures on top of it, and you can just kind of like layer stuff, and you're like, okay, that's just it. I know what this is, and I can just do this in 3D and just take it to that finished product. Right.
Like nowadays, I find that if I sit down to do a painting or a drawing or something, I never get past like that 30% stage because it's like I don't want to spend all the time rendering and polishing this when I could do it in 3D much faster.
Right.
So I use drawing and painting now as just like an idea, like blast out a sketch and move on.
Yeah.
It's taken a lot of the pressure off of it, which is really fun.
Yeah. Something I've been doing recently is like I'll do that initial sketch. I'll do a mock-up in 3D. Get to like a point where I'm like, okay, this is a good milestone. Then I'll take a screenshot of that, throw that back into my painting program, paint more details into it, and then just constantly go back and forth. Because I'd rather take a break, paint, and like sit in my bed or sit on the couch and watch Netflix.
Keep it fun.
Yeah, keep it fun.
Yeah.
Dude, I was just thinking about, so I sent this program over to Damon a while back called Art Breeder. I'll throw this in too. But so basically what it does is it takes like two different images and then it'll just like sort of mix and match them using machine learning. It just makes like these different shapes and stuff. And it's a lot cooler than that sounds. Like it actually makes, if you take a bubble and a fish or something, or a bubble and a puppy's face.
I think I've seen this actually.
Come across it in like an art form. And then you can just click like, create a bunch of children from that image, and then you click on the one that you like from that and it creates more. And now I'm thinking, well, okay, I was throwing in like, there's user submitted images, and I was putting it somewhere around, and I was thinking, man, well, if you were doing that same process you just talked about, you've created like your 3D environment, you've done your sketch over, as another part of that process, you could toss it in there and start seeing all these different compositions.
That's sure really cool.
That's really awesome.
With a character, it would definitely work. I'm not sure how I think perspective, like as long as you're looking really like far out, kind of. I've seen them do different landscape things, so I bet it would work with environment art too. Yeah, I'm really curious to see it.
I'm very curious. I'll try
we could just throw some of your stuff through and see how it looks.
That'd be really cool.
I gotta try that when I get home now.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never thought of doing that with like something that's already in progress.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Just
That'd be
see where the
And then you
images
take
go.
it and you put into the Google Dream, whatever, and you make it all trippy and weird.
Just make it into an LSD trip.
Yeah. Like, it just puts dog faces all over your art.
That's what I wanted.
He's so cool. So now that you have wrapped the game and it's out, how is your mindset? Like, what are your feelings now versus when you just started to Respawn? Like, how do you feel today compared to a year ago?
Infinitely more confident.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, like
Sleeping better now.
yeah, like no joke. Like it's one of those things where it's just like, speaking personally again, it was one of those things where we were making this game. We just had no idea how it was going to be received.
Yeah.
Like it's just like we knew that we had something that was pretty cool. We knew the art was pretty cool. We just didn't know how the public reception was going to be. It's just like there's a lot of variables involved in this whole project. And so now that it's out and it's getting the reviews that it's getting and people that are actually commenting and stuff and making tweets and stuff, it's like shit, like we did actually a pretty decent job. And so it's just like the vibe at the studio has been really fucking great, and we're just excited to move on. Just like
Cool.
keep new stuff going.
And you guys are just trying to carry that momentum into
Exactly.
And whatever.
Then you can apply that to me personally. Like just first project, and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what to expect. And now that it's being received well, you're like, okay, let's just keep this momentum going. I'm really excited to keep going. Let's keep like that is like just a little check mark, a little milestone that we've have completed. Let's just carry the lessons that we learned from here and move on.
Yeah. And have you found that it's helped motivate you to do stuff at home, or do you find yourself going take a breath and do other things, or
it's a little bit of both. I think the biggest motivator for me doing stuff at home is that I haven't posted something on ArtStation in about a year.
Yeah, that'll do it.
So it's like I don't know if I can I personally wouldn't be able to sleep well if I've known that I haven't posted something on ArtStation for a whole year. So it's like, okay, maybe it's time to actually commit to something and get something out there. Yeah. But it's good to take a breather after the project was like the art was done. We're just kind of like, okay, it's out of our hands. We can't do anything. Mm-hmm. It's just like who knows what's gonna happen, So that's the time to take a break and relax, and maybe you really relax, you learn new software, etc. And
cool.
So yeah. I think that makes sense, right?
Yeah, no, that makes 100% sense. Man, I can't even. I've never shipped a game, so I can't even imagine what it's like to hit that end point. Close.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's weird for me because I started the week of E3. So Spider-Man had been announced at E3 before, and then I started the week when we were doing I don't know if there was gameplay that was coming out then, but it was just kind of like you were saying, that you just got thrown into the fire and just working on stuff immediately. On my end, it was like I walked into an empty studio where almost everyone was just out at E3 then. So it was sort of, we still had plenty of work to do because the game was getting wrapped up then. And yeah, technically, my name is in the credits for Spider-Man, but I only worked on the DLCs for that. So we're youngins,
Yeah.
You're actually the only guy who's shipped a big title from now.
Yeah.
So.
I'm still pretty young though.
Senior on the show.
A year out and you've got a launch title, a big one. That's got to be crazy. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, to get through the whole process like that.
Yeah.
So there was one big thing that happened this week in the world of art and design that I really want to get your professional perspectives on, and that is the Cybertruck.
I've done nothing but talk about the Cybertruck since it's been announced.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well, I haven't heard any of it. So give me the spark notes of your discussions.
I think
thumbs
that
up, thumbs down.
If you get in an accident and inside that car and those airbags fail to go off, your head's going straight into that fucking sharp angle that's on the dash.
Yeah.
Okay, so we all know Evan's pickup truck is gonna have just a bunch of pillows on the outside.
Yeah.
All the extra space is just for padding.
That's me, man. I need it. I'm
plush.
I'm a fragile boy.
Yeah.
Gotta keep this man safe.
You're a Halo fan, right? And I would say that
True.
The design of the truck is very similar to like a PS2 version of Halo. Well, there was no PS2 version of Halo.
PS2, yeah.
An Xbox version of the Warthog, right?
Sure.
So does that make you like it?
I mean, as soon as you start putting guns on it, and you put like some Spartans in the driver's seat, maybe I'll start liking it.
No, what I'm saying is when the really good mod guys get on this with some money, they're gonna make a really cool looking Cybertruck.
Oh,
if you
sure.
modify that thing, you jack it up, you add some more lights on
But
it.
it's made out of solid steel.
I
How
don't
would
know
you
what they're gonna
modify
do.
it?
I don't know. It's gonna be cool.
I did see someone on Twitter that did like a slight like paint over of the car, where he took like parts of the I think it's like the F117. That's appropriate. It's called like the Nighthawk, I believe. It's like one of the first stealth fighters that we made in America.
Okay.
It's like it's not the stealth bomber, but it's like the one that kind of has like it's like a V shape.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or a triangle shape. And he took parts off that and slapped it on the Cybertruck and just added just little tiny like third details all over it. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That alone made it really cool. I think the one cool thing the Cybertruck does is the fact that it has just an aluminum steel / material.
That
no
is pretty
paint.
cool.
I like the idea that it's just bare metal tank, or not tank, but truck.
Pretty much. Though.
Yeah.
Is that going to be more conductive to heat than, say, our fiberglass bodies that we have in our cars now? Like, were you going to touch that thing and it's like going to cook your finger off, or?
Well, it's for people going camping, so I think the idea is that you use it as a stove as well.
It's multi-purpose.
There you go. Fry those eggs right on the roof.
You can see one on the street a year from now, and it's like covered in like egg
Barbecue.
stains. Yeah.
The guy's clearly been flipping burgers on the roof.
That's so funny.
I don't know, man. I would love to take that thing to Joshua Tree.
Yeah,
Damn, dude.
it's a all-weather vehicle for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But so what do you think about the Cybertruck?
All right, so I wrote a blog post about it, and I was reading through the responses to it this morning, and it was basically how in the morning I'd gone into work, and Jason was like, dude, have you seen this thing? I thought it was a joke. I said, this is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. But 24 hours later, I found myself really liking it for the same reason that I like Death Stranding. And that was that it was this moment when an artist was able to break through in an industry that is just getting more and more distilled, trying to reach more mass markets, global audiences, where somebody was allowed to take a risk. And this massive game or this completely different car got through. And I just want to see. I don't like playing Death Stranding. I don't really love everything about the Cybertruck, but I want to see more artists able to take those kinds of chances, because that's when we're going to get that dope car that you were just talking about. Where you have like it's totally different and cool. It's only going to happen if artists are allowed to do that.
That's a great point. I hadn't thought about that. Because it's like one of those things where they always say like, oh, if you want to innovate, give them 80% familiar, 20% new, right?
Right. Yeah.
But that tends to set a pace of change that maybe isn't always the best pace, right? So if someone just goes like, here's 80% new, it just kind of like pushes that envelope along. So maybe that's what happens with Cybertruck or the new Strand game. It could start a whole new genre, a whole new revolution of how we look at games, design, cars, all that stuff.
Well, and if they take off, then from a business standpoint, then people, you might be able to convince like a producer or business person more easily to take risks, right? Like, they're always trying to push for, the most conservative approach to whatever we're trying to create.
Right.
But if you can point to something like the Cybertruck and say, that made it, we can take this risk and it might pay off even bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it had something like 140,000 pre-orders already.
Yeah, they're already past like 150K.
That's insane. And that's also kind of what happened with Into the Spider-Verse, right? Like, that company was like, we're going to do something that hasn't been done before. It's completely different, and the executives were like, yeah, go for it. And
then they actually made something really cool.
Then they made, that's true. They made something amazing.
Yeah.
That no doubt will definitely push the envelope forward. So it's all, maybe it's all in that same realm. It just doesn't necessarily hit our eyes the right way. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
That's
I think I enjoy the semi that they made. That semi, I think, is like a good balance of pushing design forward and also like having that artistic, vision where it's like it's kind of like it does look like something. I think that thing looks more like a Cybertruck than the Cybertruck.
Right.
Like I can see the semi in a Blade Runner film, whereas like then the Cybertruck in a Blade Runner film.
Right. Is that one of the fully self-driving Tesla semi-auto?
It's kind of like curvy and stuff. And,
okay, yeah. The self-driving part's really cool. I like that,
of course,
a lot.
As somebody who has to drive in LA, big fans of that feature.
Great idea.
I would like just to sit in my car as it drives down the miserable 101, just looking at Reddit.
Right.
No, this is totally off topic, but the guy in my improv class sells Teslas, and he was selling me hard, man. He has one. And he's like, dude, they're all going to go up in price as soon as this full self-driving feature gets rolled out. You're going to get to work. You're going to send it out, and it's going to just act as your Uber all day. It's putting money in your pocket, and then the price of the Tesla's going to go up because people are making money on them. So you got to buy it right now, man. And dude, I mean, I'm not usually falling for things like that, but he kind of had me.
But you drove here in a Tesla, right?
Of course. The Tesla tank.
Wait. So is he saying that you get to work and your Tesla goes out and drives people around?
That's the idea.
Oh, I would not do that. I'm not going to trust random strangers in my Tesla.
Comes back with a few more stains.
Only 3 people threw up in it today.
Oh, man. I would be very surprised if that actually happens.
Like, my Tesla is used as a school bus.
Yeah, true. Unless they I could see myself doing that if they were like, the car's only $10,000, but you have to let it drive other people around, and that money goes to Tesla. I could do that, honestly.
Oh my god.
There would gotta be like limits, right? Like, I sleep from like midnight to 8. Please don't drive elsewhere from midnight to 8 so I can get to work.
Seriously, it better be in that garage all night. Your car then becomes like a kid, and you gotta make sure it's not sneaking out.
Yeah, you gotta start feeding it and stuff. It wants apple slices. Yeah.
Peanut butter.
Yeah. Every time I drive by a McDonald's, it starts like veering over to the left. You're going to get or veering over to the right to get into the McDonald's. You're like, no McDonald's. We already have McDonald's this week. Yeah.
Oh, McDonald's did a sponsored thing with Tesla where it automatically just drove you through the drive-thru. That would be so obnoxious.
I mean, I'll never turn down a small fry from McDonald's.
But that's the problem if you're there. You're I might as well.
That's your cyberverse. You're talking about like the cyber-looking things. That's basically corporations taking over. It's like we're all gonna turn to fucking like those people from WALL-E.
Yeah.
We're gonna be really rolling around our Tesla as fat as ever, just getting fed McDonald's because there's 15 McDonald's along Vine.
I'm here. I welcome the new robot overlords. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the future, another thing that's coming out this week was that Half-Life remake in VR.
Oh, yeah. What do you think of that, Evan?
As the resident Half-Life expert.
You actually played the game. That's why I'm asking.
You played Half-Life?
I did not play Half-Life.
You haven't played Half-Life?
I have never played Half-Life.
I haven't really. I think I touched it one time. So
wow.
I played Gary's mod. Does that count?
I guess that kind of counts.
It's the same.
You used the assets.
Yeah.
I never believed that Half-Life 3 was coming out. I always thought that, and there was a documentary that came out with the announcement. Documentary. It was like a 20-minute interview of Jeff Keighley and some like Valve developers, and they're saying they were working it back on 2016 or something like that. The idea of Half-Life 3, and they were saying it's just impossible. They like the amount of like the what am I looking for? Like the fans like they want something that Valve can't deliver. Essentially,
right?
And it's like no matter what they do, they would never deliver on the hype of Half-Life 3.
Yeah, at this point, it's like a mythic idea,
right? Yeah. It's basically like the second coming of Jesus in a video game.
Yeah,
it's just like when it comes down, it might melt people.
Yeah,
and if it doesn't, then it's gonna get lashed, pretty much. But I wasn't excited until I saw the trailer. I think, and it's one of those things where it's like you kind of forget how cool the Half-Life universe is until you see it in motion, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, you got like these giant 3-legged tripods that are walking around with these giant cannons, and it's got metallic structures all over it and stuff, and you got these dystopian, scary looking like, you know, policemen that are walking around. Like, oh yeah, the Valve created a really atmospheric universe, and just to see it again instantly kind of brought me back to when I first played Half-Life 2, like, you know, I guess like 15 years ago at this point.
And you're not even viewing that in VR.
I'm not even viewing that in VR. And so that what makes me super excited is like seeing it in VR. You're getting that perspective. You're also like, they're doing things in a VR game that I really like. Like, I haven't played a lot of VR games, so this is like kind of me like talking on my butt. But there's stuff in that trailer that was really interesting, where it's like you walk into a room and like you had to put your hand into a machine, and like while it's like hacking the computer, you have to fight off zombies. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool, because then you're thinking about like, okay, I got my left arm out, and you're like shooting things. And then like you look over to like the left, and there's someone there too, and you have to lean your body over to like, you know, shoot the thing on the other side. I'm like, okay, it's doing things in VR that I haven't seen. Like I guess the only VR game I play is like Beat Saber and like, you know, like.
But I mean, no, you're right. It's doing things in VR that really haven't been done.
Right, like crossing over, making it uncomfortable, like making sure you have your hand on something, like being way more interactive with that. It's like, that seems super cool. Like, obviously, and well, actually, there's one point that my buddy / coworker brought up, where it's like, I feel like a lot of VR games, when they showcase like a trailer or something like that, you can usually tell that it's being filmed in VR, right? Like, it's like a screen capture of someone with the goggles on, and you can tell there's like a little bit of shake to it. This one was smooth as hell, right? And according to like some people actually over there, it was recorded with the headset on. Like, it was live gameplay being recorded. Whoa. And so it was like the first time I've seen VR presented in a way that didn't feel like a typical VR game.
Do you know how they're handling movement?
No idea.
That's always the big question.
Yeah. But from what it looked like, it didn't look like it was like a teleport system. It looked like it might have been like an actual joystick that you can push around.
I hope so, because I really enjoyed that. When I played Stormland at E3, that's what they have, is like you move around with a joystick. And like, I think the fear was that would make people sick. But like, it felt right. It's like, yeah, I should just be able to walk around. Like, I can't physically walk, because I'd walk right into a wall or something. But like, that's what you would expect, is just to be able to move freely about this space without teleporting, which I think is more jarring to me.
Right.
Yeah. So I hope that they do that. I hope they have a joystick.
I hope so too,
because that would be fun.
Yeah. I'm excited. Count me in for being excited about it. I didn't think I was gonna be excited until I saw the trailer, and I was like, oh fuck, I'm back.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And the fact that it's coming out and like, you know, well, I guess the biggest deterrent is the fact that I have to get a VR. I don't have a VR system at all, but the fact that it's like, if you want it on Valve's Index, whatever it's called, it's like $1,000 plus the game, and I'm like, okay, that's a bit steep.
Oh, are they releasing a VR platform with it?
It's apparently already out.
Oh.
Which I did not know.
I didn't either.
Yeah, it's called Valve Index, I believe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, I remember somebody saying something like, this game costs $1,000, and I was like, how?
Yeah.
How does that work?
But it does run on the other platforms. So it runs on Oculus, it runs on Vive. But I'm assuming if you want like the flawless Half-Life 1.5 experience, you get the Valve Index.
That's fair.
Yeah, you want that smooth experience. Well, it sounds like you're pretty excited about VR stuff for your own personal projects. Smooth. It's a bonus check investment.
Yeah, it might be the
Christmas present to yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool to just be able to throw your thing into VR and then walk to the other side of the room and play it.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
That'd be pretty crazy.
Yeah, you should do that so I can live through it. Oh man.
Yeah, I can see you guys setting it up here. I mean, for the listeners, I walked in here for the first time today, and it's like, this is the dream, just chill work spot that you guys have created. You said that you've kind of had this throughout Noman, through different apartments, but it's like these 6 desks all set up. You got your Cintiqs out, you got monitors. It's like the corner of an office, but then also very like homed out too.
Yeah, that's what we've. When we moved up here for Noman, we moved into an equally small apartment up the street, and like it was legitimately our office for 2-3 years. So we just got used to this setup of being able to work at home next to each other. this is kind of how we both prefer to live now.
Right.
I feel like it's so easy for you guys to like collaborate on ideas too.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's gotta be awesome. Just like,
well, it's like if I'm feeling shitty about my work, I can just look at his work, you know, and be like, oh yeah.
That's the most honest thing you've ever said to me. No, it's cool. Like earlier today, we were he's crunching away on this cool new personal project he's doing. I'm working on something that I'm doing, and it's just like, Evan, what do you think about this thing I just did? And he goes, yeah, it looks cool. Maybe try this or that. And
lies.
And then, yeah, exactly. And then he goes, I was thinking about doing this or this. Like, maybe at one point he was just like, I don't know if I want a directional light. And I just turn around and I'm able to, like, we're able to feed off each other. And it's been really, really fun. And I urge everybody to not work in isolation. I think the more you can work, even with one person, or the more people, the merrier. The more you can work with other people and collaborate, just the better off you're going to be.
That's the key to the industry.
Yeah.
Just like, be open to working with other people. Please work with other people, and don't take it personally.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's another piece of advice that I always heard. Like, don't take it personally. Like, just like what you do at work is like, I mean, you can be really proud of the stuff that you do at work, obviously. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's like, everyone's got to have his hands on it, or they're going to have their hands on it. So, like, you can have the personal stuff at home. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
you own that.
Yeah, you own that.
But at work, you don't own the art that you're making, so it's up to the world, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you were just talking about the personal projects there, I've been having a lot of questions mostly from students who are saying that they're, you know, going back on Christmas break right now, and they're all they're sort of making like their New Year's resolutions and be like, yeah, I'm gonna work on this and I'm gonna get ready for next semester. And I know what it's like to be there too. And sometimes you get stuff done, and sometimes you don't. Mm-hmm. But do you have are you kind of setting up one of these projects with the holiday break in mind, or on the flip side, if a student was asking you that right now, would you? I guess are there just certain things that they should focus on, or like ways to stay motivated over holiday break when they don't have somebody else around? Because I think that was always my big thing that like held me back from continuing to work on a project, was not being in the school environment surrounded by people.
So these are people that are going to like art school or like school in general?
Yeah. And
so they've been doing like the art and stuff throughout their entire term and then going on Christmas break?
Similar to Noman, yeah. Okay. Just having a break and continuing to want to work on something.
I would say keep it small. Like if you're gonna like go on break, keep it small. Like do something that it's definitely obtainable within like 3 days or something like that. Like that way you can finish it and be proud of it, and then move on. And if you still have that itch, do another like small project.
That's
and then
really
project.
Good advice.
Because for me the biggest issue that I always run into with personal stuff, especially now that the game's like when I was in production, it was just like, it was nothing but work. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, as soon as I had free time, I was like, oh, I can do all this stuff now. But then you never get that stuff done. So it's like, the smaller projects, I found that if I just model something like a little trinket or like a prop or box or whatever, like I can finish that, get my dopamine hit, you know, and learn a little bit of something new, and then be like, okay, I'm good. And then like I think it's important also during Christmas break to make sure you spend time with, you know, spend time doing stuff that you can't do during your school year.
Right. Take a break.
Yeah.
The breaks are given to students for a reason. Like, it's very noble to want to just work endlessly, but like take breaks, because everybody deserves a break, right?
Right.
And that's where the inspiration comes from too.
Yeah, exactly. When you're taking a break and you're doing other stuff, you're going to be becoming more inspired and go back and put that into a personal piece or whatever. But yeah, that's staying small is definitely
staying really small.
Yeah. And I don't know about I don't know if this is the best advice, but my kind of motto lately has been just like doing fan art for some reason, and I feel like I wish I had done more of it when I was a student, because it really gives people a sense of like what you're interested in, and it's something that some people can actually connect to mutually,
right? Rather
than having an entire portfolio of your own like original concepts or things from, you know, just out in the void.
Right.
When it's something that's already exists in an IP, like I feel like that's something that maybe the person reviewing your portfolio goes, oh, I love that game. Like if this guy likes that game, then we may get along. And that's something that they can latch on to.
Yeah.
So That's why nowadays when I'm doing personal work, I'm normally doing something involved with one of the franchises that I like, so that it keeps me motivated. There's already a lot to draw from inspirational wise, and like you're not just working out of a void.
Yeah, I just want to jump in there too, because I've been in a similar spot, but I do also want to add the one word of warning, which is that as students, there are also a lot of students who only do that fan art stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's also a massive no-no. Like,
Yeah,
it's a great
that's
way
fair.
to really show, like you did the ATST, right?
Right.
Like, to show that's an incredible signal. This is something that I am dedicated in and willing to put in the hours. But if all you had was Star Wars stuff, maybe it would have worked because that's where you ended up going. But if it was anywhere else, like if they just weren't hiring or making that game at the time, then you would have been really screwed, right?
That's very true. Yeah, I would say like 90% original stuff and like 10% fan art is probably a good balance to hit.
I think to add on to that, I think during your school year, you can do your original concepts.
Yes.
And like that way you have someone over your shoulder being like, hey, I can guide you in these directions and whatnot. And then if you want to do your personal projects off the break, that can be your fan art, whatever. And then that way, the way I look at fan art as well is that like, I want to make something, but I don't necessarily want to put 100% of my that sounds bad. Let me revert all back. I don't want to do a lot of thinking in terms of like, how does this design look?
Right.
Whereas like with my own concepts, I'll do like 50 iterations. Whereas if I did fan art or something, that design's been done already for you. And if I just copy that design and put it into a piece of fan art, like this project will probably never see the light of day, but I'm working on like a Halo piece right now. And it's like I'm just taking one of the maps from Halo 3 and trying to like make it like more of like a heroic kind of like feel, kind of like out of a campaign, like a story beat or whatnot. And what's brilliant about that is I was able to boot up the Master Chief Collection and go through, take screenshots of every single like Forerunner like architecture that's in any of the games, throw it onto a pure ref folder or board, and then when I start laying it out, I can get a quick layout of what the map looks like, because it's just circles pretty much. And then I can go into my massive resource of like a reference and just see like, oh, I like that shape. I'll just model that shape really quick and then stick it into my environment.
Yeah.
And then that way I don't have to be like, what does this environment look like in the modern age? And like, how does this game look like 10 years from now or something like that? You know, it's like that's already been done for me. Let me just get those objects in there that have been tested by concept artists. And that they went through that process already, and let me get that in.
And you can just focus on big picture stuff at that point.
Right. And then you're still practicing what you want to do. Like you're still getting modeling practice in, you're still getting sculpting practice in, you're getting the composition, you're getting the lighting. You're kind of focusing on things that help sell the image rather than like you're helping on things that like create the image rather than focusing on the tiny details. There's a teacher that we had at Noman that would always stress like big picture, like just obsess about the big picture. Don't like necessarily get tied up in these tiny details that he would call the ant party. And people would get obsessed with modeling little tiny screws and bolts and stuff, and like the teacher would zoom in on that and he's like you're messing up. Like this is the ant party. No one's going to appreciate this except for ants. Yeah. And so it's like just like with the fan art, you can basically just focus on like composition, and like that's what's like fun about like I guess that's the fun part about like doing all these ideas is that you can just have the window that you're working on be like really small on your screen, and you're just looking at the basic shapes and whatnot, and then after that, once you get it done, you're like, okay, next project. But yeah, I think fan art's a great idea. I agree. Yeah. Don't do fan art all the time. I've personally lucked out with doing Star Wars stuff, and that they saw. I have other Star Wars stuff that I haven't posted on our station that I showed to them, and I even had Titanfall stuff that I didn't post that I showed to them. So there was some pretty heavy Respawn stuff that I had in my portfolio that I showed the art directors and stuff that they enjoyed. But it was basically like I tried to present it as a thing where it's like I'm not showcasing that I love Titanfall. But I wasn't showcasing that I love Titanfall. I was showcasing that I know how to model these complex shapes. Right. And so I think it's a good way of presenting fan art.
Definitely.
That's really cool. Yeah, I just think that's such fantastic advice that you gave a minute ago about choosing those bite-sized chunks, those like 3-day projects, because I'm going to take that with me for my own kind of approach to this break, because it's so easy, both as a student but also just as a professional, when you have some kind of chunk of time coming up like that, you look at your calendar and it looks like you have 2 weeks, right? Of just, it's blank. Oh my God, I could just bust out. But what's going to happen is that you're going to start seeing your family's schedule takes over, you're busier than ever. But then maybe in there you do get 1 or 2 days. And then it's nice to, like, if you had started the project at the beginning, you had this giant thing planned out, and then it gets interrupted, you're kind of like, it's pointless to ever go back.
Right.
But if it's that bite-sized piece, then you can finish it whenever you can.
Exactly.
And you just get inspired while you're with your family and you're living in the moment with them. So I think that's just a really beautiful, efficient approach.
Definitely. And it's so good. Like, finishing something always feels better than not finishing something. So, like, having it be something that you can actually finish is just going to propel you forward.
Yeah, almost taking that, like, Inktober model. Like, you know what? This is going to be a sketch a day kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, I did Inktober once. I should do it again.
Dude, I always feel like I hit it, like, right at the end of the month. I'm like, crap, I should have done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really great thing to do.
I'm always really consistent for the first week, and then after that, I'm like, it'd be like day 1 through 7, and then it'd be like day 13, day 26.
End of the month.
It's like, that's it.
Yeah, I saw like the best stuff that they had posted on ArtStation, and I think most of the ones that were on there were like, this was the piece this week, and so they'd have like 4, maybe like a bonus piece. It's like 5. But I think it would be really cool if, like, next year at Insomniac we just said, lunchtime, right? So it's built into the day, and then you just have environment artists, concept artists, character artists, and you don't have to go to every one of them too. But because it's actually scheduled into your day, there's a higher chance. There's a lot of like cross-pollination ideas.
Yeah. Right, totally.
It could be cool if we
could start it with March of the Robots.
Oh, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, we've got a lot of sci-fi nerds, so why not?
We can have you Skype in.
Yeah, I'll Skype in. I'll be 30 seconds behind at all times.
We wrapped up, dude.
Yeah, I'll laugh at all the jokes late.
Yeah.
It's like quiet.
Sweet. Oh, man. Was there anything that you want to plug, Evan?
I don't have anything.
Really? Not even maybe like a game that just got released, or...
I mean, I guess.
All right, I'll do it for you. Guys,
Okay.
go play Jedi Fallen Order.
It's sick.
It's so cool. I finished it, I guess, was that 3 days ago?
3 days ago, yeah.
I finished it 3 days ago, and I can honestly say it was one of the most fun experiences I've had playing a game in a long time. I finished it, which is a testament. Like, I don't finish games anymore because I usually lose interest. So, definitely check it out. Pay attention to that first level. It's some fantastic work done by Evan over here. So
And Joby.
Yeah, it was a team effort. I'm sorry. I'm just a proud roommate. Yeah, so check it out, guys. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, unbelievable stuff, man. What a great conversation. This is the first time that we've really gotten to talk, because we met just in passing at a comedy show.
Yeah.
You were at the other end of the table. It was really loud.
I was like, what's up, man? I love the game. Yeah, this is so cool to sit down and just chat with you and hear another artist's take on stuff.
Totally.
Yeah, this was a really, really fun podcast.
Definitely.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah.
Cool.
We brought it to you. So
I know,
you had
I didn't have to go anywhere.
You just spun around in your chair and you did.
Yeah, I feel like you guys just suddenly appeared. Like, oh, okay, I'm doing this now.
Here we go.
Cool.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Until next week. See ya. Evan, my man, we loved having you on, and I can't wait to do this again soon. You are a wicked artist, and I really liked listening to you talk through your creative process. This coming week, we're going to be talking with another good friend of ours. I'm really thinking about keeping this one student-focused. All 3 of us made the transition from being students to working in the industry at a AAA studio in the last year and a half, and for some of us, even more recently than that. So I think it's going to be really interesting. The person we're having on is endlessly entertaining to talk to, and she's been a huge, huge supporter of ShapeLanguage from its inception. So definitely tune in for that one. Thinking about calling that episode The Leap. So how about that? I hope you had as much fun listening to this episode as we had recording it. It really was a blast. And if you have any questions, we love hearing from you. So drop a comment. Until next week, friends, keep drawing stuff. Peace. Oh, also, peep those show notes. We've got Evan's portfolio in there. We'll throw in the link to Artbreeder and that blog post where you can share your thoughts on the Tesla Cybertruck. All right, that's it. See ya.